First of all, we need to configure the Zyxel router by inserting the SIM card into it. Now, most of you will probably have this type of SIM card, namely a nano SIM card. My advice is to get these adapters, which I actually bought from Amazon for a total price of €3.50, but honestly, every time I needed an adapter, I had to empty all my phone boxes. Let's say that this was a lifesaver in a way. At this point, at the bottom, we have the rubber flap that we are going to open with a lot of difficulty. Perfect. And we can insert our micro SIM card directly here in this way. Let's go all the way in until you hear the click. Perfect. Obviously, we can then remove it in the same way. Personally, my fingers are probably a bit too big, they don't fit. Let's click at the bottom again, and at this point we can remove it. So, we've inserted it. Let's close it. All we have to do is connect it to the power supply. Keep an eye on our switch on the back because it is currently configured to use the internal antennas of this Zyxel. When we connect our two antennas, we will have to switch to external, otherwise it will continue to use the internal antennas. Obviously, I have also connected the Ethernet cable. This will allow us to have a point of comparison right away before using our antennas, and let's also connect the power supply. The power supply is connected, and now let's turn on our router. The green LED on the second van. This way we know that our router is on. We can also see the green LED here in front. Consequently, on our test PC, try to eliminate the reflections for a moment. Let's disable the Wi-Fi because I want a wired connection. The wired connection is currently in progress. Obviously, it tells me no internet access, so let's wait. There are also clearly the LEDs at the top, again with the various reflections that I can't show you. There's the power button, the various bars that indicate how connected it is to the internet. In the meantime, here we can see that it has practically managed to connect. In fact, right now, in theory, if I go to speedtest.net, I should be able to do a speed test. Yes, perfect, it's loading. I want to show you that I've disconnected the Wi-Fi, so I'm connected only via an Ethernet cable. The Ethernet cable that you see connected to port 1 is clearly also connected to my PC, so I'm going to click accept. I'm trying to position myself so that you can see without all these reflections, so I'll click on go. In fact, it tells me Telecom Italia. Let's zoom out for a moment, otherwise you won't see anything. In fact, the SIM I'm testing is a Team SIM, so I'll click on go and see. In fact, let's enable location first, so the speed test is more accurate. In reality, it had practically already exceeded 100 meters. Okay, now it's no longer connected to Milan, it's connected to Naples, which is clearly closer. Let's click on go and see what it can achieve. Latency of 52 milliseconds, speed at the moment around 90 megabytes. It has settled at 84.12 megabytes in download, while in upload we are at 45 megabytes. Obviously, we can also access the router's login screen. The password is on the back of the router itself, so I'm going to log in so we have some more information about the signal. I'm logged in, and obviously as soon as I log in it asks me to change the password. So let's try to have Google suggest a password directly. So I'll click on change password, and at this point the quick start configuration wizard will start. The configuration wizard will take you to perform the basic settings of the device. It will take a few minutes to complete. Click on next to start. Let's go. Time zone. Obviously we're going to select Rome. So go ahead. Here we have the Wi-Fi settings. For now we'll leave them like this. Eventually we could also separate the two screws, so 2.45 GHz, but in our case we don't need it. So I'll click on done. It tells me that clearly if I changed something on the Wi-Fi level, but that's not my case. There could be a disconnection, also because I'm using an Ethernet cable, so I won't experience any type of disconnection. The connection has clearly been changed. Here we have the connectivity level. We are currently in the router settings, the system information. It clearly tells me that I have been active for 20 minutes, the MAC address and so on, and it also tells me the coverage level. Basically the LT, that is the 4G, gets me 5 bars, the 5G only 2 bars, and obviously it gives me the signal strength, which is -94 dBi in this case. Now let's move on to ours, which is basically the antenna that we could also keep indoors, so it is not mandatory to install it outdoors, and consequently it is also the most practical to connect. It is worth pointing out, however, that inside the Cubic box we have practically everything we need to eventually connect it to the wall. So we have this bracket that we are now going to open. Here we are. I have to say that it is closed quite well. I am struggling a lot, but obviously the type of packaging was done specifically to prevent damage, not only to the installation itself, but also to the antenna itself. Since it is in contact with the antenna, there is a possible risk that it could be damaged, and as a result it has been protected particularly well. Let's remove all the plastic, see what we have and clearly how we can install it, and we have, as I was saying, the possible installation on the wall with the various hooks. Obviously here are all the instructions for installation. The antenna is connected here at the top, and this is the wall mounting. The antenna is basically placed up here. There is the output, basically, for the 4 cables that need to be connected to the back of our router. The connection can be made directly to the wall, like this here, or, which I find very interesting, we can connect it to a pole. Eventually we have a pole outside, maybe under the roof, so in our case, practically here under the balcony where we actually want to connect it, and we could use. Now I'll show them to you, these hooks, practically U-shaped. Let's say that more than showing it to you, I'll show you the image directly. So with the U-shaped hook, in this way here, you basically insert it into the back part with the antenna up here, and practically we have the hook for the pole directly. Let's say that it's super accessorized from this point of view, so we really don't have any problems with the connection. Clearly in my case I won't do all this at the moment, also because my intention, apart from the Cubic, which is very convenient, is to check, and at most if I find it particularly good, to try the panel directly. I mean, I want the best possible performance. In any case, you have to make compromises here. It's clear that if you want more convenience, you choose this one. If you don't want all the inconvenience, so to speak, of the installation, it's similar, so to speak, as we'll see now, to simply using a router, except that it increases the power. Instead, in the case of the panel, we should get much, much more. And obviously I want much, much more. Okay, let's close everything up and put it aside. I don't want to lose it, also because if I have to install it I want to be sure that I won't have any problems. Let's close it up, and for now let's put it here in the packaging. Later we'll fix it. Better, closed everything up. And now let's see how to connect ours directly to our Zyxel router. Obviously we're going to unroll the back part. This way the antenna wires are free. We've completely unrolled our wires directly. We have the 4 poles. Obviously now we're going to turn off the router and make the connections. Connections that you'll realize are really easy. On the back part, we simply go here, remove the cover of the 4 pins. The good thing, the convenient thing, and it was my doubt, is that you can connect them however you like, so there is no real order, you won't have any problems from that point of view. Maswell assured me that you can connect it in any way and it will still work. Okay, let's turn off the router, disconnect the power supply so as to cut off any type of current. For convenience, I'm also going to disconnect the Ethernet cable. Obviously, in order to connect it to the router, we will need the adapters. The adapters are obviously in the package, so we are going to grab them now. There are 4 of them, obviously, for the 4 poles and for the 4 antenna cables. First of all, we are going to hook them up one by one. First, second, third and fourth. We are going to connect it to the back of the router. In this case, there is no need to screw it in, you just have to push it in. First, second, third and fourth. Let's see if they are all connected properly. It would seem so. At this point, as I was saying, you have to move the switch from internal to external. This will directly power our Cubic which, as we said, we can put in any position, so I'll simply place it here directly on the desk. Let's reconnect the Ethernet cable to port 1, as we did before. Let's connect the power supply and power the modem directly. And at this point it should be powered on, obviously also our startup in progress. Let's wait and see if the signal on the computer clearly changes. We'll already open the speed test page, although now it will obviously tell us that we are not connected, so let's wait for it to connect, so we can immediately do a quick comparison. Obviously, pay particular attention to the issue of the switch because you may connect everything and mistakenly think that it automatically senses, let's say, in a certain sense the external antennas, the external cables that go directly into the router. It automatically understands that it must use the external antennas. This is not the case. So please pay attention to the connection, otherwise it could easily not work. In the meantime, it's connecting here. I don't know if I can show you the LEDs well. I think you can see it this way. Let's wait a moment longer. And now it should be connected. I've moved the notebook so that you should be able to see me a little better. The Cubic is currently positioned practically on the desk, and let's do our very first speed test. Speed test in progress, 41 milliseconds of latency, and we've practically doubled it already. Fantastic. We're at 200 megabytes and we're indoors, guys. You can connect this outdoors even under a roof, and we're using the cubicle. We're not using the panel yet. Just think what we'll be able to achieve with the panel. We've got almost 200 megabytes in download and we're almost at 70 megabytes in upload. Fantastic. Let's see by accessing the screen directly. Although now it will obviously ask me for the password again, which I've obviously forgotten. In the meantime, the speed test has finished, 194.5252 megabytes in download. We've exceeded 70 megabytes in upload.